just bad news all the way around. It's time that we re-examine and explore the effect that that has on society as a whole, in addition to creating psychological problems, behavioral problems, sexual mischief. Additionally, it creates the idea that authority figures will use violence and fear in order to change your behavior, and that is perfectly acceptable and normal. So you have a child that grew up being spanked and being afraid of violence being inflicted upon them. I'm willing to guess that that child is going to fit right in with the way that this society and government is organized, and that everything is, violence is used in order to compel behavior in just about every single aspect of life these days. And of course, anything that government is involved with is violence or the threat thereof. So I think that's one of the reasons why in the United States and all across the world, people are so essentially just willing to be subjected to arbitrary authority, because they're afraid of fear of punishment or some sort of violence, and it's because they've been programmed their whole lives to be afraid of punishment or violence. And it just continues on and continues on. So there's a study right there. Spanking lowers IQ, fosters aggression, and depression. If you're a parent tuning in and you spank your children, I strongly would hope that you reconsider, because the studies definitely show there's a whole multitude of negative effects. Some alternatives, of course, are simply talking to one. A tactic that I utilize in my life with my child is to be extremely excited when our baby does good things and behaves well, to be overly excited. Of course, we're naturally excited, but just to be so joyful and expressive about how happy we are, that whenever the baby does something bad or something dangerous, and whenever we say or are disappointed, it seems like it's completely different. It's strange. Why are my parents not as excited as they usually are? Is there something different that I'm doing about my behavior? But there's all sorts of different ways to do things to do besides using violence against children. A new model of empathy, the rat. This is a really exciting study here. That's one of the feel-good studies of the century. At the very least, the new experiment reported in Science is going to make people think differently about what it means to be a rat. Eventually, though, it may tell us interesting things about what it means to be a human being. In a simple experiment, researchers at the University of Chicago sought to find out whether a rat would release a fellow rat from an unpleasantly restrictive cage if it could. The answer was yes. The free rat, occasionally hearing distress calls from its compatriot, learned to open the cage and did so with greater efficiency over time. It would release the other animal even if there wasn't a payoff of a reunion with it. Astonishingly, given access to a small hoard of chocolate chips, the free rat would usually save at least one treat for the captive, which is a lot to expect out of a rat. It's also a lot to expect out of a human being. Researchers came to the unavoidable conclusion that what they were seeing was empathy, an apparently selfless behavior driven by the mental state. There's nothing in it for them except for whatever feeling they get from helping another individual, said Peggy Mason, the neurobiologist who conducted the experiment, along with graduate student Inabel Ben-Ami Bartal and fellow researcher Jean Decity. There's a common misconception that sharing and helping is a cultural occurrence. But this is not a cultural event. It is part of our biological inheritance. The idea that animals have emotional lives and are capable of detecting emotions in others has been gaining ground for decades. Empathetic behavior has been observed in apes, monkeys, and described by many pet owners, especially dog owners. Recently, scientists demonstrated emotional contagion in mice in a situation in which one animal's stress worsens another animal's. I remember seeing a video of a dog that rescued another dog that was hit by a car in the middle of a busy highway. It was pretty exciting to see the dog dodge all the cars and everything, but the dog put its own life at risk in order to rescue someone else without any apparent payoff other than the good feeling from being altruistic. If this experiment reported Thursday holds up under scrutiny, we'll give neuroscientists a method to study empathy and altruism in a rigorous way. Do age and gender affect empathetic behavior? Will if rat free a rat if it doesn't know? Is more help offered to individuals and animals related to, either directly or as a member of the same genetic tribe? What are the genes and their variants that determine whether one helps another and how much? Answering those questions becomes possible now that there is an animal model for this behavior. And yeah, maybe this is something that's just genetically built into any animals that, of course, are part of a broader family or a culture or a species. And I'd like to think that this, at least one point, was present in human beings. But when you consider the fact that many humans are in fact in systems of mental and physical slavery, and everyone else just seems to sit around and go about their daily business, maybe the rat is a little more advanced on that front than even we humans. It's a question we found out soon. That is the Science and Tech beat here for the Rise Up Radio Show. We're going to be joined by Drew Phillips here coming up soon. We're going to cue him up. Let me get in contact with him, see if we can chat with him. We're going to be chatting about Bitcoins, a revolutionary medium of exchange that is really just sweeping the earth. In fact, there was a story recently we're going to chat about how Iranian citizens are now using Bitcoins in order to circumvent the trade restrictions that they have there on Iranians using economic sanctions is what I was trying to say. They're actually using these Bitcoins in order to circumvent that. So we'll be chatting about that here very soon. This is the Rise Up Radio Show on KDRP, kdrplive.org. We're going to take a short break here. And then coming up soon, we'll be joined by Drew Phillips. He's with the Freedom's Phoenix crew out of Phoenix, Arizona. And we're going to be chatting about Bitcoins and how they are revolutionizing the world economy. We'll be right back after this short break.